Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskritam Naram Jaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayamudire Nashtaprayeshu Abhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavati Uttama Shloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naishtaki Krishnaya Vasudevaya Devaki Nandanaya Cha Nanda Gopa Kumaraya Govindaya Namo Namaha Namo Pankajanaಭಾಯ Namo Pankajamaline Namo Pankajanitraya Namaste Pankajangrave. Welcome this morning to our Bhagavatam reading. We are reading from Canto 3, which is the status quo, chapter 21, this conversation between Manu and Kardama, and we're reading text 24. So, okay, we'll start. Navai mrishayvasya prajadhyakshamadharhanam avadviddeshu atitaram mai sangrabhitatmanam. Once again. Navaijatu mrishayvasya prajadhyakshamadharhanam bhavat-viddeshu atitaram mai sangrabhitatmanam. So word for word, na, not, vai, indeed, jatu, ever, mrisha, useless, eva, only, syat, it may be, praja, of the living entities, adhyaksha, O leader, matarhanam, worship of me, bhavat videshu, unto persons like you, atitaram, entirely, mai, on me, sangrabhita, are fixed, atmanam, of those whose minds. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace, Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. The Lord continued, O dear Rishi, O leader of the living entities, for those who serve me in devotion by worshipping me, especially persons like you who have given up everything unto me, there is never any question of frustration. Purport. Even if he has some desires, one engaged in the service of the Lord is never frustrated. Those engaged in his service are called sakama and akama. Those who approach the Supreme Personality of Godhead with desires for material enjoyment are called sakama. And those devotees who have no material desires for sense gratification, but serve the Supreme Lord out of spontaneous love for him are called akama. Sakama devotees are divided into 4 classes: those in distress, those in need of money, the inquisitive, and the wise. Someone worships the Supreme Lord because of bodily or mental distress. Someone else worships the Supreme Lord because he is in need of money. Someone else worships the Lord out of inquisitiveness, to know him as he is. And someone wants to know the Lord as a philosopher can know, by the research work of his wisdom. There is no frustration for any of these 4 classes of men. Each is endowed with the desired result of his worship. Start with Mangalacharan prayers. Om Jnanatirandhasya Jnananjanashalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namah. Namah Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Prishtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Niti Namine Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatari Jai Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Srivasati Gaura Bhaktavinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Welcome again, dear devotees, to this morning's Bhagavatam discussion. I feel fortunate um, to have this opportunity, although I just got back from a business trip in Wisconsin last evening, and it's been kind of a busy week, so I haven't really prepared much. So I don't know if I'll be able to do justice to this beautiful verse, but I'll say a few points, and then if you can add on your thoughts. Great. I start by seeking the blessing of my Guru Maharaj and all of you wonderful devotees that have assembled today, as well as others that may listen later, so that I may speak something of some value. So this chapter, it's such a relevant chapter to our lives as devotees, or for me, as a wannabe devotee. And everyone has been discussing this chapter so nicely. I mean, unfortunately, I have not been able to follow every day because of travel and other things. But whatever I've heard is so relevant, because all of us are endeavoring in our spiritual journeys, right? And many of us are not there yet. I mean, certainly me, I'm far from where I someday hope to be or pray to be. And this chapter, especially this verse, is just so hope-giving. It's really really wonderful verse, is what I would say. So the chapter itself starts out with Vidura inquiring with Maitreya Muni about Swayambhuva Manu's dynasty and their contribution towards creating progeny for populating the material world. So Manu, of course, has several children, but Maitreya Muni starts out in this chapter by he responds to that question by talking first about Manu's daughter Devahuti and her husband Kardama Muni. So he starts out by describing how Kardama Muni, once he was commanded by Brahma to create progeny, what did he do? How did he start out? So he started out by performing austerities on the bank of River Saraswati. For 10,000 years, he worshipped the Lord, surrendered to the Lord. And that in itself, right at the outset, is such a wonderful lesson, right? When we have, a challenge or any task for that matter, how should we start, right? How do we, in Project Speak, kick it off? By seeking the Lord's blessing, like Kardama Muni does, right? And actually, there are various such descriptions of devotees where they have started by seeking the Lord's blessing, like Arjuna, when the Brahmastra was thrown towards him. What does he do? It's not like he panics and starts defending him right away, but rather he circumambulates Lord, he circumambulates Krishna, and then he offers prayers, and then he takes action. And personally, I have experienced as well, when there is something to do and time is short, and you feel that, okay, now I need to kind of start working on it, and the mind is all over the place. Just a few minutes, maybe chanting one round, makes everything so much, better and calmer, and somehow makes things successful too. Makes that challenge much more successful. So coming back, Kardama Muni pleases the Lord so much that the Supreme Personality of Godhead himself appears before him. And this beautiful description of how he's effulgent like the sun, wearing a garland of white lotus flowers, his yellow silk garment, and his beautiful lotus face encircled by dark locks of curly hair. Just that thought takes us to our Sham Sundar, right? This beautiful lotus face encircled by dark, curly locks of hair. So, yeah. So Kardama Muni, it says that Kardama Muni is joyful. One can just imagine how it would be if the Lord actually appears before us. And so his natural love for the Lord arises, and he offers prayers to the Lord. He, of course, has a desire that he needs to present, but he uses the right protocol again, right? Another lesson. He starts by glorifying the Lord, right? And then he presents his wish. This wish that he has seems very material, right? Because he says that he is looking for a wife who can fulfill all desires in married life. But then he explains the reason, right? Which is, because of Brahma's instruction, which in turn is the Lord's instruction, right? To populate this world. So he places, his desire, his wish, the benediction that he's desiring from the Lord, and then he ends up again glorifying the Lord. He says that you are the creator, maintainer, destroyer of the universes, and he offers obeisances to the Lord's lotus feet. And after all this, the Lord, who is very pleased with Kardama, starts to speak. So the Lord says, and this was yesterday's, the Lord starts to speak from yesterday's verse that we had yesterday. So he says that I have already arranged to fulfill your heart's desire, right? Without needing to know it. He's like, the Lord has already, arranged to fulfill Kardama's heart's desire. And Prabhupada, in that particular purport, he says that while the Lord, fulfills all desires that are not detrimental to the devotee. So he's never going to give anything that's detrimental to the Lord's devotee. So, and then the Lord continues with today's verse, which is so hope-giving. Looking at the translation once again, it says that, so the Lord says, my dear Rishi, O leader of the living entities, for those who have served me in devotion by worshipping me, especially persons like you who have given up everything unto me, there is never any question of frustration. So those who surrender unto the Supreme with pure devotion are never subjected to frustration, right? Now, what causes frustration? It's when our desires are not fulfilled, right? And so the Lord is giving this assurance, of course, particularly to individuals who have renounced worldly attachments and have dedicated themselves entirely to the Supreme Lord. And so he's saying that their desires will never be unfulfilled. Now, one may say that, having given up everything unto the Lord, what other desires, may they have? So obviously, like in this case of Kardama Muni, those desires are in complete alignment with the Lord's desires, right? Everything that such a devotee does is for the pleasure of the Lord. Now, again, which, if you just look at what did Kardama ask for a wife, it may look so material, but actually we know that this desire was in alignment with the Lord's desire. Now, Srila Prabhupada extends this so magnanimously. He says that even if a devotee, even if he has some desires, that's how he's starting the purport. He says, even if he has some desires, one engaged in the service of the Lord is never frustrated. So, so people like me, right, again, wannabe devotees, we know that we have a North Star, which is complete submission to Krishna. But my desire, is in so many different places, right? Of course, um, well, the desires are, starting with Krishna, I want this, I want everything for me, protect my family, give, whatever, a new house, success in my job, the money that I need or whatever. To even, may I speak well in this, Srimad Bhagavatam class. And from there, right, getting to that stage of Krishna, everything for you. Srila Prabhupada has shown us, he's actually given us the statement that Krishna, if you please, Krishna, then please, do this for me. If you think this is right for me, or for the pleasure of your devotees, Krishna, for your pleasure, for, so a long ways to go, right? I sometimes wonder, I'm so far from there that can I even call myself, right, designate myself a devotee? And so in this purport, somehow Srila Prabhupada has addressed that confusion. Right? So he says that those engaged in his services are called sakama and akama. And those who approach the Supreme Personality of Godhead with desires for material enjoyment are called sakama. And those devotees who have no material desire for sense gratification, but serve the Supreme Lord out of spontaneous love for him are called akama. And those devotees who have no material desire, for him are called akama. Now, just by this statement, it kind of gives me a place, so to say, within the circle, right, of, at least within the circle of devotees as designated by Prabhupada. Right? So he says that, even if you have material enjoyment, you are still a devotee, you're a Sakama devotee, but still within that, circle around Krishna. Right? And of course, this verse, Srila Prabhupada has taken from this beautiful verse from Srimad Bhagavatam 2.3.10. It says, Akama sarva kamo va moksha kama udarati tivrena bhakti yogena yajeta purusham param. So akama, one who has transcended all material desires, or sarvakama, one who has the sum total of material desires, it's completely all material desires, or mokshakama, one who desires liberation, and udaradi, one who has broader intelligence, all must worship the Supreme Whole, the personality of Godhead, tivrena, with great force. Right? And why? Because once one starts worshiping the Supreme Lord, no matter where we are in our, desire circle, desire cycle, the business of fulfilling our desires, the Lord will make sure that we transition towards that akama, somehow with time, of course, won't happen immediately. But he gives everything that, all of the facilities that we would need in order to get there. The association of devotees, even sometimes some difficulties, to kind of steer us back into that where we had started out, right? So, and to get to that stage where our happiness becomes synonymous with Krishna's. Srila Prabhupada also elaborates on the 4 categories of Sakama devotees, right, which we know from the Bhagavad Gita, verse 7.16. Says, Chaturveda bhajante mam jana sukritino arjuna artho jekya suratharti jnanija bharata sabha. So Prabhupada talks about the 4 four classes, right? Those in distress, those in need of money, the inquisitive, and the wise. So note, Krishna is talking about Jana Sukritino. So these are the pious individuals who have come to Krishna. Unlike the Dushkritis, or the miscreants or the atheists who go about life doing, not believing, disbelieving Krishna, even opposing Krishna, and thinking that it's all it's me. I'm doing this. It's all on my strength. I'm independent, and I'm going to be able to do this on my own strength. But subsequently they become completely bewildered and lost. And like we know, with time, time takes away from everybody's life, and soon they come to realize that where am I? What am I doing? Right? Who am I? So Prabhupada is elaborating on these four categories. So he talks about someone worships the Supreme Lord because of bodily or mental distress. That's artho. And there are many examples of this type, right? Many of us have probably come to devotional service, because of some kind of distress. But in the scriptures, we learn about Gajendra, Draupadi during Vastraharan, Uttara when Ashwatthama sent the Brahmastra towards her womb. Now, all of these devotees, right, no matter how they started, Gajendra in particular, we hear in so much detail. Once he came in contact with the Lord, his that journey towards pure devotional, service or bhakti kind of started, right? Where the desire to alleviate the distress transformed into love for the Lord. And again, why? Because the Lord himself guides every individual soul, with so much care. He guides every individual soul towards that pure devotional service, towards that North Star. And then the second category, someone else worships the Supreme Lord because he's in need of money. Arthati, like Dhruva Maharaj, or Sudama, although influenced by his wife, but he had also come in need of money. And once again, as soon as in contact with the Lord, that sakama tendency, that sakama bhakti turns into akama, right? Dhruva Maharaj, how beautifully he says that I've been looking for glass, when the Lord, that original, precious diamond is in front of me, and he converts into a pure devotee. And then, of course, we know that someone else comes out of inquisitiveness, jigyasu. Someone wants to know the Lord as a philosopher by research work. That's the jnani. Of course, in Bhagavad Gita 7.68, the Lord says that the jnani who has a lot of knowledge, but is still searching for the Lord, is the dearest to him. So the bottom line is, no matter where a devotee starts, right, the Lord does not frustrate them. I mean, he is so kind. He's just so pleased that, this person, this jiva has reached out to him. He appreciates it so much that, as Prabhupada says, each one is endowed with the desired result of his worship. And the kind and merciful Lord, he himself helps us to transcend all of these material desires, right, and come to that state of pure devotional service. And sometimes it may mean that we may be put in a situation where we have to struggle a little bit. It's like when we become complacent, things are going well. We just, sadhana kind of tapers off a little bit, or we tend to deviate a little bit. Then again, out of his kindness, he puts us through a situation where we have to struggle, and our sadhana intensifies at that situation, and our dependence on Krishna increases a little. So I mean, we actually, through all of these things, we put Krishna through, put him to work in a way, right? To bring about these situations where we again come back on the highway, towards him, rather than taking these exits and kind of getting lost on and off. So on our part, we have to do our part, obviously, right? Which is to, Prabhupada has given us this path, this process. And our part is to stay within this process, right? I mean, the Lord has given us the assurance. He's given us the assurance that he accepts all forms of devotion. But, in order to reach that where our acharyas are leading us to, where the Lord wants us to be, where we want to be, we have to stay in this path with faith. It reminds me of Lochandas Thakur's beautiful bhajan. It says, Bhajo bhajo bhai, Chaitanya nitai, Shudriro Vishasho Puri, Vishayo Chariya, Shiroshe Mojiya, Mukhe Bolo Hori Hori. It says, my dear brother, I request that you just worship Lord Chaitanya and Nityananda with firm conviction and faith. If one wants to be Krishna conscious by this process, one has to give up his engagement in sense gratification. One simply has to chant Hare Krishna, Hare Hare, without any movement. And then in the next verse, he says that, my dear brother, just try to examine this. Within the three worlds, there is no one like Lord Chaitanya or Lord Nityananda. Their merciful qualities are so great. And Prabhupada has given them to us, right? Has given us this magnanimous, munificent Lord Chaitanya and Nityananda, who's just by worshipping them, by staying in the process, by chanting the Mahamantra given to us, we can reach that state, that North Star. So I'll end here. Thank you very much. Sorry if I misspoke. Like I said, I did not have too much time to prepare, but I did not want to miss this opportunity either. So please, if anybody has any additional points to add. Or correct.
It was such a wonderful class. Accept my humble obeisances. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. You said you did not had any time to prepare, but still it was a nectar. So much of beautiful points. What if you prepared? It would have been like a feast for us, for our ears, for sure. That was so good, Mathaji. Like couple of points I liked was like you said, if you're like stuck with something, like, then take a pause, just chant one round. Like, I was like relating. That's very true. Always take a pause and, just go in front of the deities. I was like told by one of the senior devotee like many, many years ago, when he said, just go in front of the deities, raise your hands up and, just ask them. I was like, I was so mad initially, I was like, what in that situation, do you know what I'm dealing with kind of attitude. And then later, after this so many years, that's true, just go in front of the deities, raise your hand and just leave aside all the upadhis and the doership mentality, and then just ask the deities, plead, because we are beggars. Does it's a beggar has any other choice? No, just depend on the master. So I was thinking, yes, that's very true. Slowly, after this many years, at least I'm able to accept that. And also you said, what is that? I forgot at the end. You said, oh my gosh. Depending on the Lord, something Mataji, I forgot now. Yeah. Anyways, yeah. Connecting with the Lord, keeping aside all our upadhis and depend on Him, that's the best. Yes, yes, I got it now. And the Lord is so merciful, even though, sometimes when we are in struggle or, any of the all the downside phase, we always, or sometimes our family members who they will ask like, oh, you're chanting, why this happened to you? But still the Lord is so kind, right? As you said, he's not leaving us, we always have heard, right? This is like a one-way ticket. There's no, once you start chanting, taken this process, there's no way of turning back. But yeah, the Lord is so kind, right? We become so complacent and, oh, okay, then immediately Krishna will, okay, just come, be strong in your sadhana. But still the Lord is kind. If we think deeply, the Lord is being so kind to us, taking care like a parent, even though that stage the kids, they won't know, like, the parents are telling only for their, they say, why? But still, yeah, for sure, the parents knows, and later the child will realize, oh, now I realize the same thing, right? Lord is so kind. That was so good, Mataji. You shared very nice points, even though we have heard many times, but still repeating those points is like very nectar. Thank you so much, Mataji. Hare Krishna.
Thank you so much, Mataji, for listening so well. I'm such a bad listener. I'm really amazed at how you've picked up on all of these points. And yeah, I mean, we often, just by being complacent, actually, we are giving, Krishna more work. We are actually putting the burden on him to bring us back, through our deviation. And I mean, I have somebody I had heard about, we are on the highway. We have somehow gotten on the highway. And if we stay on it, we're going to reach there. But we get so deviated, we become complacent, we stop somewhere and do something, and then Krishna has to bring us back. But he does, and sometimes it's with difficulty and we don't understand it at that point of time. But I mean, just having that faith that, now that, Krishna, I've come to him, I'm kind of within his circle of protection. And everything that he does is for my good. So yeah, thank you, Mataji. Anything else, anybody? If not, we'll stop. ग्रंथराज श्रीमद् भागवतम की जय, श्रील प्रभुपाद की जय, निताय गौर प्रेमानंदे, हरि हरि बोल। वाञ्छाकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभ्येव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। जय।